meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is committee business, and then we'll move to Bill S6. Mr. Sabaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. I believe everyone in front of them will have a motion that's been distributed. On motion on Bill C97. I believe, Mr. Chair, the motion is in order.
Yes, I believe. Does people have copies or not? Yep, everybody has copies. You better read the motion because there's a lot of detail in the motion. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One, the committee begin a subject matter study of Bill C97, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget tabled in Parliament on March 19th, 2019, and other measures on Monday, April 29th, 2019, if the bill itself has not yet been referred to the committee. Two, the committee hear the departmental officials on the subject matter of Bill C97 on Monday, April 29th, 2019, from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. 3. If Bill C97 is referred to the committee by the House during the subject matter study of the bill, all evidence and documentation received in public in relation to its subject matter study of Bill C97 be deemed received by the committee in the context of its legislative study of Bill C97. 4. The clerk of the committee write immediately to each member of Parliament who is not a member of a caucus represented on the committee to inform them of the beginning of the subject matter study of Bill C97 by the committee and to invite them to start working on the proposed amendments to the bill, which will be considered during the clause-by-clause study of the bill. 5. Members of the committee submit their prioritized witness list for the study of Bill C97 to the clerk of the committee by no later than noon on Thursday, April 18th, 2019, and that these lists be distributed to members that same day. 6. The committee hear witnesses on Bill C97 from April 29th, 2019 to May 16th, 2019. 7. The committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear on Bill C97 on Wednesday, May 1st, 2019 from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. and that officials appear from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. if necessary. 8. Proposed amendments to Bill C97 be submitted to the clerk of the committee in both official languages by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019 at the latest. 9. The committee commenced clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C97 on Monday, May 27th, 2019 at 11 a.m., subject to the bill being referred to the committee. 10. The chair may limit debate on each clause to a maximum of 5 minutes per party per clause. And 11. If the committee has not completed the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill by 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 28th, 2019, all remaining amendments submitted to the committee shall be deemed moved. The chair shall put the question forthwith and successively without further debate on all remaining clauses and proposed amendments, as well as each and every question necessary to dispose of clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, as well as all questions necessary to report the bill to the House and to order the chair to report the bill to the House as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Sabari. I would make a point. I have a list of speakers here. On point 10, that the chair limit debate to a maximum of 5 minutes per party per clause. On that one, we've kind of exercised judgment on that one. There is some clauses that we've allowed parties to talk for pretty well 20 minutes or so, depending on where we're at in the bill. So we're pretty flexible on that, but if absolutely necessary, we'll go to the 5 minutes. Okay, I have on my list first Mr. Polyev and then Mr. Dussault.
Merci beaucoup. Afin de rendre plus clair le débat sur la motion, j'aimerais le lire en français aussi. Ça nous aiderait à mieux considérer ce que le gouvernement nous propose.
Pierre, if you could, in French.
Oui, j'allais lire la motion.
I was going to read the motion so that in French, so that everyone can understand what we're considering here and discussing. That the committee begin a subject matter study on Bill C-97, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget tabled in Parliament on March 19, 2019, and other measures on Monday, April 29, 2019, if the bill itself has not yet been referred to the committee. 2. The committee hear from departmental officials on the subject matter of Bill C-97 on Monday, April 29, 2019, from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. 3. If Bill C-97 is referred to the committee by the House during the subject matter study of the bill, all evidence and documentation received in public in relation to its subject matter study on Bill C-97 be deemed received by the committee in the context of its legislative study of Bill C-97. 4. The clerk of the committee write immediately to each member of Parliament who is not a member of a caucus represented on the committee to inform them of the beginning of the subject matter study of Bill C-97 by the committee and to invite them to start working on their proposed amendments to the bill, which would be considered during a clause-by-clause study of the bill. 5. Members of the committee submit their prioritized witness lists for the study of Bill C-97 to the clerk of the committee by no later than noon on Thursday, April 18, 2019, and that these lists be distributed to members that same day. 6. The committee hear from witnesses on Bill C-97 from April 29, 2019 to May 16, 2019. 7. The committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear on Bill C-97 on Wednesday, May 1st, 2019, from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., and that officials appear from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. if necessary. 8. Proposed amendments to Bill C-97 be submitted to the clerk of the committee in both official languages by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 22, 2019 at the latest. 9. The committee commence clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-97. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order. I know my colleague just made a very simple mistake on number 8. It's 5 p.m., 1700 hours on number 8. 5 p.m. Thank you. So I will reread number 8, given this correction, for which I thank my honorable colleague. 8. Proposed amendments to Bill C-97 and be submitted to the clerk of the committee in both official languages by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019 at the latest. 9. The committee commence clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-97 on Monday, May 27, 2019 at 11 a.m., subject to the bill being referred to the committee. 10. The chair may limit debate on each clause to a maximum of 5 minutes per party per clause. And 11, if the committee has not completed the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill by 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 28, 2019, all remaining amendments submitted to the committee shall be deemed moved. The chair shall put the question forthwith and successively, without further debate, on all remaining clauses and proposed amendments, as well as each and every question necessary to dispose of clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, as well as all questions necessary to report the bill to the House, and to order the chair to report the bill to the House as soon as possible. Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, the bells are ringing.
Okay.
We're not that far from the House. If we have unanimous consent, we can continue for, I'd say, is it 30-minute bell? We could continue for 15 minutes. Is there unanimous consent to continue, or do
No.
we just come back after the
To
vote?
come back after.
Okay, meeting suspended until after the vote. Are we ready for the question?
No, we're still
Oh,
the
okay.
speakers list
I
here.
kinda
I haven't
thought
actually
so.
had a chance to finish my own remarks.
Oh, okay.
I was in the process of
Go
reading
ahead,
motion.
Mr. Polyev. The floor is yours.
So you recall, Mr. Chair, that I just finished reading the motion. If it would benefit, members would benefit from hearing the English version a second time, given that the break to go vote interrupted the flow of our discourse earlier. Just in case members have forgotten the motion as it's written, I'll read that in English. Motion that, 1, the committee begin a subject matter study of Bill C-97, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget tabled in Parliament on March 19th, 2019, and other measures on Monday, April 29th, 2019, if the bill itself has not yet been referred to the committee. The committee hear from departmental officials on the subject matter of Bill C-97 on Monday, April 29th, 2019, from 3:30 to 6:30. 3, if Bill C-97 is referred to the committee by the House during the subject matter study of the bill, all evidence and documentation received in public in relation to its subject matter study of Bill C-97 be deemed received by the committee in the context of its legislative study of Bill C-97. 4, that the clerk of the committee write immediately to each member of Parliament who is not a member of a caucus represented on the committee to inform them of the beginning of the subject matter study of Bill C-97 by the committee, and to invite them to start working on their proposed amendments to the bill, which would be considered during the clause-by-clause study of the bill. 5, members of the committee submit their prioritized witness lists for the study of Bill C-97 to the clerk of the committee by no later than noon on Thursday, April 18th, 2019, and that these lists be distributed to members that same day. 6, the committee hear from witnesses on Bill C-97 from April 29th, 2019 to May 16th, 2019. 7, the committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear on Bill C-97 on Wednesday, May 1st, 2019 from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., and that officials appear from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. if necessary. 8, proposed amendments to the Bill C-97 be submitted to the clerk of the committee in both official languages by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 29th, 2019 at the latest. 9, the committee commence clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-97 on Monday, May 27th, 2019 at 11 a.m., subject to the bill being referred to the committee. 10, the chair may limit debate on each clause to a maximum of 5 minutes per party per clause. At 11, if the committee has not completed the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill by 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 29th, 2019, all remaining amendments submitted to the committee shall be deemed moved. The chair shall put the question forthwith and successively without further debate on all remaining clauses and proposed amendments, as well as each and every question necessary to dispose of clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, as well as all questions necessary to report the bill to the House, and to order the chair to report the bill to the House as soon as possible. All right, so let us go through some of my concerns with the motion as currently written. First of all, we would like to see the minister testify from 3:30 until 6:30 on May the 1st, rather than just 3:30 to 5. and we'd like to specify that, we want wording to specify that members may pose any questions to the minister related to this bill or his conduct as finance minister, and that the chair shall not interrupt such questioning. 3 hours is a more reasonable amount of time than is an hour and a half. Furthermore, that we limit the finance minister's opening remarks to no more than 10 minutes so that we can focus on questioning. The finance minister has had a chance to give a speech in the House of Commons. He doesn't need to repeat it here. Any members who are concerned about his opening statement can refer themselves to his very lengthy opener during the budget introduction in the House of Commons. And if they have any confusion whatsoever about either what's in the budget or what the finance minister thinks of the budget, that speech can answer those questions. And therefore, we don't need to burn committee time listening to him speak for half an hour. So that is our principal request. Secondly, the clauses 10 and 11 are particularly objectionable because they restrict our ability to properly debate this omnibus budget bill. Last year, Mr. Chair, we all stumbled upon a very strange section of the previous omnibus budget, which gave us deferred prosecution agreements. Few in this room understood the consequences of that amendment. You, to your credit, Mr. Chair, you acknowledged that the deferred prosecution agreements did not belong in the budget bill. Mr. Fergus, likewise, and very presciently acknowledged the problems with that section of the bill, and the foresight Mr. Fergus exhibited in that debate is quite startling now that we have seen events unfold subsequently. I don't know if maybe Mr. Fergus can jump in on this discussion and tell us if he was able to foreshadow just how important and his predictions of trouble would become. But if you look at the last 3 months of discourse in this country and you match that discourse with Mr. Fergus's observations, you can only conclude that he has a degree of clairvoyance that is, quite frankly, terrifying. That he could have foreshadowed so much trouble in so few words is really impressive. What's that? He's now predicting a Liberal re-election in 2019. That is even more terrifying, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'm here all night, folks.
Try the roast beef.
No, seriously, I'm here all night. But the reality is we did not have enough time to properly discuss that section. I think we would all acknowledge that privately. I know that there's probably some desire to avoid putting that on the public record, but to have such an important amendment to the criminal code appear before a finance committee out of nowhere and then to discuss it in just a few short minutes is not in the public interest. So we do object to the idea that the chairman would limit debate on each clause to 5 minutes. We also object to this hard deadline. There's no rush here. We know that there are many months for the committee and the House to return a bill for passage. There's no reason why Parliament couldn't meet in the summer months to work on the budget as well. It is not unusual for Budget Implementation Act to be passed in the fall because none of the measures are particularly time sensitive. So, if we were to have a debate here that last a little longer than normal, we could simply reconvene meetings in July and August. I know I would be prepared to attend those meetings. And I think most Canadians would think it reasonable that we do our jobs in the summer as well, not just in the spring. We're being an MP is a full-time job. We can't expect to be at the cottage from June 24th until September 15th or 16th. We have to be prepared to show up for work. And if it takes longer than just end of June to get the BIA passed, then I think that we would do well by Canadians to show up and do our jobs. And some members have pointed out they don't have cottages, which is even better. It means the recreational opportunity cost of being here will be particularly small for them. And I know Mr. Sorbera will, as an economist, will appreciate the reference to opportunity cost. So that is my intervention, Mr. Chair. I think there's a speaking list. Let the member go on.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev, and we'll turn to Mr. Dussault.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank my colleague for his presentation. I'll attempt to be brief, given that I want to respect our witnesses who are supposed to appear here. But I have to oppose the motion before us, this omnibus motion for an omnibus bill. The main reason being that once again, and this is not the first time, it happened almost every year, Budget Implementation Acts are studied in committee before being even adopted in the House. So there are risks that we will do some work here for nothing. If the bill is not adopted in the House, it'll never be referred to the Finance Committee. So we're doing all this for nothing. So this is predicting the result of a vote here before the House has had its word on the bill at second reading. So in principle, I think that's inappropriate for a committee to forecast the result of a vote in the House. So that's the main reason I'm opposed to the motion. But what I'd like to propose, Mr. Speaker, at this point is to extract paragraphs 2 and 7 of the motion so that they can be voted on separately, and so that members can vote first of all on paragraphs 2 and 7 and then on the rest of the motion in its entirety, which would at least allow me to express our desire on our side to invite the Minister of Finance to appear before the committee. I don't want my vote against this omnibus motion be perceived as a refusal to invite the minister or the officials to appear. My desire is to invite them to appear, and I want to express myself separately on those issues. So my motion that I am moving now is to split this motion, extract paragraphs 2 and 7 of the motion so that they're voted on separately.
Do you have, I guess, how do we proceed here? We can proceed by way of an amendment to extract sections 2 and 7. You want to discuss them, though, I understand, right? Or do you just want them eliminated from the motion?
I want them to be extracted and voted on separately.
Procedural problem here. The only way to do that would be by a way of amendment to pull them out, or unanimous consent by the mover to basically set those two clauses aside and deal with them separately. That would be correct, would it?
Yeah, with the other motion, propose a new one without these two, and then vote on the two after.
Yeah, what you would have to do in that case would be to withdraw the original motion, put a motion forward without 2 and 7 in it, and two separate motions with one separate motion with 2 in it, and another separate motion with 7. So, can you propose an amendment to deal with this, Pierre?
What I would propose is seeking the consent of the mover to extract those two, number 2 and 7.
Will we be voting on each individual item?
No,
Or-
we have the motion in total as
Yes.
As tabled.
So, Chair, if we can just get clarification, would 2 and 7 be removed and put in as a new motion?
Yes, as I understand it.
No.
But it would have to be two separate motions. Maybe the clerk can explain procedurally what would have to happen in order to do that. I think the only on an amendment, the only motion that would probably work is to delete sections 2 and 7 from the original motion and come back in with them later as changed or whatever.
If you propose an amendment, that amendment will be put to a vote too. So
Yeah.
that's a separate vote, if you will. You can propose one here, one here.
Just if I could ask Mr. Dussault, are you? I think your dilemma, if I could put it this way, is you want to hear from departmental officials and the minister, and for the minister of departmental officials and for the minister to appear. But so you don't want to vote against them, but you want to vote against the motion as a whole. Am I correct?
Exactly. And I don't want to propose an amendment to delete those two clauses that I'm supporting.
But I don't think procedurally there's any way we can
Chair?
proceed. If there's no unanimous consent
Point of order?
from the, point of order?
Chair, can we, with unanimous consent of all parties here, can we vote individually on each point? And then that will allow Mr. Dussault to express his feelings with regards to the motion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If everybody agrees, we can.
As long as we get to debate each one of them.
No.
Well, what we wouldn't do, you want us to vote on things we haven't debated?
It's one motion, just leave it as one motion. Move
Then
on.
we'll-
Oh, you changed your mind.
I was asking a question.
Okay.
There was nothing on the floor in any event, so there isn't agreement by the mover to do that, Pierre. So there's no way of doing it unless you can think of a way procedurally to do it, because I certainly can't. Okay, Mr. Deltel, if you can think of a way, Pierre, come forward with it. Go ahead. Floor's yours yet.
I tried to find a compromise. I'm proposing to delete number 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
That's my
All right.
amendment.
Okay, your motion is to delete sections 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
That seems fair.
That's your motion? So, the motion's on the floor. Mr. Polyev. Oh, do we got to go back to the? But this is on the motion, so it'll be a new list. Mr. Polyev.
Mr. Blight Richards was just. You want me to go for it? Okay.
This is on the motion to delete all sections except 2 and 7.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I think this is a very reasonable motion. At the end of the day, it allows for study of the bill, and it allows us to hear from the minister. I have to say, I'm not entirely satisfied with the outcome that this amendment would deliver, because it, of course, once again puts the minister in a nice, warm, comfortable cocoon to protect him from the ravages of democracy. He would only speak, he would only testify for an hour and a half, of which he tends to burn easily a 15-minute hole at the very beginning. And then he takes pre-written softball questions from his government members for more than half of what remaining time exists. And finally, whenever things get difficult, the chair has a tendency to come to his rescue, almost like a bodyguard would rescue a client. And so that leaves us, a couple of minutes to actually ask him serious questions about his conduct and his legislation. We now know the consequences of sheltering the minister from accountability. They include the adoption of legislation that has engulfed the government in scandal. I think, ironically, if members had been willing to hear legitimate criticisms about the deferred prosecution agreement, had hived it off, sent it to justice for a proper 6 or 7 month study, they probably wouldn't have ended up in this mess in the first place. They probably would have spotted some of the dangers that later metastasized into the horrendous events of the last 2 months. It's funny sometimes. Politicians and governments think they're doing themselves favors by sheltering themselves from accountability, but the resulting impunity with which they act without accountability gets them in more trouble than if they had just answered the tough questions up front. So in a strange way, while it would have been uncomfortable for the minister to stay longer and answer more questions about his BIA last time, we might have saved him from himself, and he might therefore have saved his boss from himself. But by preventing this committee from doing that accountability job, we gave the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister the liberty with which to cause themselves such enormous difficulty. So why not just accept the member's amendment for now, and then we can discuss another amendment later that would bring the minister for 3 hours instead of 1.5, and require he answer questions rather than give speeches while he's here. I think that would probably be a better approach, and I will see if any of my other colleagues agree. I believe that Mr. Richards is on the list as well as Mr. Deltel. So
Mr. Richards is on for sure, and Deltel now.
Yeah.
Mr. Richards,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will. I think I will actually be looking to move a sub amendment here, but I want to speak to the amendment first, and then I'll maybe move that. And we can discuss it, and I'm sure some of my other colleagues will want to chime in on the sub amendment at that point. So I'll allow them that opportunity then. But I wanted to speak to this before I do that. And certainly, listening to the arguments that others have made here, I certainly would say, first of all, that I can't help but agree. To look at an omnibus bill of this nature, with the kinds of timelines that were being proposed here, with the hammer that's kind of being put on top of the opportunity for debate. You know, anytime that you limit this opportunities for scrutiny, it's a concern, and we've seen the outcomes of that limiting of scrutiny in the past. We've seen that with, you know, for example, we could get into the last budget that this government brought forward, and they of course snuck in something there to try and help their buddies with their liberal friends, and it's led to a giant scandal for this government, obviously, and obviously a huge concern for Canadians all across this country. And those are the kinds of things that happen when you limit scrutiny and you limit the opportunity for something to be looked at in detail. When you limit the opportunity for debate, that's what it results in, is problems, lack of accountability, maybe even mistakes in some cases. I mean, we've already seen the type of error that there was in just the math alone on this budget from this government. Fortunately, that's already been caught by one of our Conservative members. But those
Nice
are the
guy.
kinds. Yeah, it certainly is. You know, Mr. Macaulay that discovered it. You know, a very diligent member of Parliament, and those are the kinds of opportunities that we need to give for there to be these things when there is errors, and we've seen a multitude of them from this government over the last few years. So there's certainly lots of precedent to believe that there would be more errors and mistakes, and we need to have the opportunity to comb through things for that, and properly question and make sure that there's accountability measures built into it. So the idea that Mr. Dussault has suggested here, where there's an opportunity, obviously I think everybody here would agree that there would be a desire to hear from and question departmental officials, and to question, obviously, the Minister of Finance for some of those very reasons, and others, for the idea that obviously, you know, the minister should be here to be held accountable, to be transparent and open, and we haven't necessarily seen that in the past, but certainly something we should expect. And then, you know, the same goes obviously where we're looking at the details here. There is likely to be a lot of questions for officials on what some of the omnibus things that are thrown in the budget. You know, I for example, saw in this year's budget an example of something like that, and you know, there's a line item in the budget that directly affects my riding and only my riding. And there certainly are some questions in my riding as to why, in fact, it's being done the way it is by some, and it shrinks the area of some of the ski hills in Banff. Seems like an odd thing to be in a budget, to say the least. And so those are the kinds of things that there needs to be opportunity to be questioned on, and that's one example of many like it. And so these are why it's important that we do hear from officials and we have the opportunity to question them. It is important to have that same opportunity with the finance minister. You know, and I guess I'll, on the side note here, just say, at least in this case, it is going to be the Minister of Finance and not a parliamentary secretary like was offered in the last time when it was supposed to be the minister that was to appear here.
No offense intended.
Yeah, not at all. But the point is, you know, that's not the person who is supposed to be here to be accountable. It's supposed to be the minister. So bottom line is the idea of taking those two out, which I mean, there was obviously efforts made by my colleague in the NDP to try and do that in some kind of a cooperative sort of way. It didn't seem as though the government was willing to try and cooperate in any kind of way to try and allow that opportunity to have that, and then have obviously more discussion about some of the other clauses in this motion. So he's made the decision to approach it in the way he has. And I mean, I will point out to members of the government that there is, I guess, nothing stopping them from obviously bringing forward the other 9 clauses they have in here following if this amendment was to pass and then the motion itself was to pass, there would be nothing stopping them from bringing forward the other 9 clauses and trying again, at least not to my knowledge. And we can have a full debate at that point on the other 9 clauses. If that's what they choose to do, I think they can expect a fairly full debate on it because there seems to be some concerns. But point being, I can't imagine why anyone would say there's a problem with hearing from the people who were supposed to be here to answer for what's in there and to be held accountable by members of Parliament on behalf of the public of this country. So that, to me, I can't imagine why anyone would oppose something like this. So hopefully that'll be what we'll see as a result here, is that we can move forward with those couple of items and then figure the rest of it out from there. But to look at the idea here of, well, first of all, I would say that probably nobody here has had the opportunity to really fully look at the BIA, obviously, at this point. The briefing for members of Parliament and their staff is not even scheduled till, I guess it's tonight, I believe. Is that correct? This evening would be the briefing. So, to have a motion brought forward to give us a drop dead date when the debate and the opportunity for consideration is going to be closed and hammered shut before anyone's even had the opportunity to examine fully the contents and be briefed on it is, beyond the pale, really, Mr. Chair. And I think there's lots of reason why everyone would be concerned as a result of that. Now, I think maybe what I'll do at this point is I would like to move some amendment, and it's much in line with kind of some of the comments that we heard from my friend and colleague, Mr. Polyev. But the sub-amendment I'll move is on clause number 7. And what it indicates currently is the committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear on Bill C-97 on Wednesday, May the 1st, 2019, from 3:30 p.m. to 5 o'clock p.m., and that officials appear from 5 o'clock p.m. to 6:30 p.m. if necessary. And what I would suggest to as a sub-amendment here would be that we would say it would now indicate that the committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear along with officials on Bill C-97 on Wednesday, May 1st from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. so that that both would be available to the entire committee for the whole 3 hours. I mean, I think that's the least that can be expected with an omnibus bill. If I can just finish, Mr. Chair, the least that can be expected with an omnibus bill of this nature, that the minister would at least come and appear for the full period of time and not leave officials here to do his dirty work for him for half of the time.
Just to interrupt, Richards, the sub-amendment isn't, you could move the sub-amendment to the original motion, but Mr. Dussault's amendment to delete all those sections, it doesn't, we're not dealing with sections 2 and 7 at the moment, so your sub-amendment is...
My understanding, Mr. Chair, is actually that we are. I think
we're not.
If my understanding of the amendment was correct, is that he was seeking to delete clauses 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Yeah,
so 2 and 7 are actually the subjects.
Yeah, but we're dealing with 2 and 7 are not subjects of his amendment. They're just not subjects of his amendment. So you can bring that in later when we are dealing with if this motion is successful, you could deal with it later. 2 and 7 are not the subjects of his amendment, if I could put it that way.
Yeah, they are the objects of the the amendment, and in fact the two clauses that he is indicating, Mr. Chair, are in fact the whole point of the amendment, is to make sure that we have the opportunity to debate and vote upon those two. Those two particular clauses.
At this point in time, I'm ruling your sub-amendment out of order. If
well,
you want to challenge
I challenge the chair
you
then.
Okay, Mr. Clerk. It's been a challenge to the chair. There's no debate.
On the motion, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? Mr. Fergus? Mr. Fergus?
Did you need anyone to tell you again?
Yes.
Mr. McLeod? Miss Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Sorbara? Yes. Monsieur Deltel?
No.
Mr. Poiliev?
No.
Mr. Richards?
No.
Monsieur Dussault?
So the sub-amendment is ruled out of order, but I'm certain you'll have the opportunity to bring it in at an appropriate time later. It's just not appropriate at this time. So, can we turn to Mr. Deltel?
Oui, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Alors,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm very happy to come back to this prestigious committee as a visiting artist in a way. I want to salute your work, Mr. Chairman, even though I defied you a few moments ago. I know you don't take it personally. We feel that in this amendment, as submitted by my colleague from Sherbrooke, there are positive and negative aspects. It's not because you extract certain elements that those remaining are not part of the debate. They are part of the debate in our view, and we contested your decision. The majority overruled us, of course. We respect the law, and we will conduct ourselves accordingly. My colleague from Sherbrooke started his amendment, or comment rather, the effect that this was an omnibus motion that concerned an omnibus bill. I want to remind you, Mr. Chairman, and you will remember, like all Canadians, that almost 4 years ago, the government had tabled a platform that was supposed to be the Bible of the actions it would take as a majority government. The public elected this party democratically, and Canadians are entitled to expect that what was in the platform would be applied. When it comes to these omnibus bills, there had been many debates at the time, particularly the current government party had been very harsh about the last government who supposedly used this method in an abusive way. Page 32 of this document states, we will not use legislative subterfuge to withdraw from the scrutiny of Parliament. The former Prime Minister used prorogation to escape certain perilous situations, which is something we will not do. It had also used the following argument. The former Prime Minister used omnibus bills to prevent parliamentarians from examining its proposals and debating them appropriately. We will stop this practice as it is anti-democratic, and we will amend the standing orders of the House of Commons. Well, Mr. Speaker, those who followed the news in the past 2 months will have noted that this promise on page 32 in the Liberal program was not followed to the letter. That's the least we can say. They're doing the exact opposite. It also states further on that they will not table this kind of bill. This is at the heart of the motion presented by our colleague from Sherbrooke, because an omnibus bill about the budget is one thing, but when you insert it into it, some distinctive elements, that's another matter. One thing you have to expect is that when the parliamentary work is done here in committee, you have to take the time to do things. You have to make sure that everyone has the right to speak, that we can have an in-depth examination, and to avoid situations that may be condemned later. I don't need to remind my friends opposite that what happened in the last 2.5 months could have been avoided if the fundamental principle of democratic debate that is relevant had been applied in a parliamentary committee. Mr. Speaker, or Chairman rather, I'm sorry, one should always take one's time to examine legislation when it's this important. What we see here is that this budget is a track record budget. It's the fourth budget tabled by the current Minister of Finance, and therefore the time has come to look at the track record of this administration and look at each of the elements here, the time allowed for this or that part or clause is interesting, but we have to have everyone have time to do it. After 3.5 years of management, after the tabling of a fourth budget, after everything that has been said over the past 4 years, and especially the actions that were taken, the moment to look at the track record is here. And what better way than to do it in parliamentary committee in an intelligent way, in a shared way as well, which means that government members shouldn't see scrutiny by a committee as some kind of intrusion or some kind of hardship for them. It's their opportunity to expose their views and tell us what their best actions have been, and maybe respond to negative criticism by opposition groups. That's what we call democracy, Mr. Chairman. That's what we call an intelligent debate. That's what we call an exchange of ideas. And as we say, light comes out of opposing ideas. This is a golden opportunity for any parliamentarian. So the clause inviting the Minister of Finance, we're not against the finance minister appearing before the committee to testify, but we feel that the Minister of Finance, who's responsible for a budget of $330 billion, a G7 country, who's been at the head of this department for years, who's tabling his fourth budget, must have all possible latitude to clearly expose his ideas, his track record, his views, and answer legitimate questions by members of all political stripes. 90 minutes to allow that person to, and I'm not talking about anybody personally here, but whoever the person is, duly elected by the Canadian public, chosen by the leader of the government to be Minister of Finance, a prestigious role, and to manage a budget of over $330 billion budget in a G7 country is something that requires more than 90 minutes to discuss. This shouldn't be seen as an all-out attack on the Minister of Finance, but as an opportunity for him to explain his vision to Canadians, to present his achievements, to give Canadians a chance to see his vision for the future and how he sees that. There may be deficits, there were prior commitments that were not held, but it would allow for debate. Limiting this debate to a mere 90 minutes when that person is at the very heart of the debate and must have all possible opportunities to express his views, well, let's seize this exceptional opportunity to have a proper debate in a parliamentary committee. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the motion by my colleague for Sherbrooke, we understand full well that he also has severe reservations about the way this is done, about the amount of time allocated, but where our views may differ is that when the time comes for the Minister of Finance to testify, he has to have the time necessary to explain his views and to vaunt what he feels have been good ideas and respond to opposition members. I remind the government members that the testimony of a minister is not some kind of punishment for a minister. It's a golden opportunity to allow him to showcase his achievements. I must also remind my government colleagues that these people also have a right to ask questions, even more time than the opposition members, which is legitimate in a democracy because they obtained a majority of seats. That's not what we wished for, but that's what we note. And we can't be variable Democrats and agree with people's opinions only when it suits us and not agree with parliamentary rules when we're not on the winning side. So we're Democrats. We respect this. We also note that government members can ask questions. When the minister is here, they're in the same political party. These may be easy shots. This is based on, as long as it's based on facts and truth, there's no problem. But it does require the time necessary for whoever is managing Canada's finances, this $330 billion budget, the fourth budget, managing the finances of a G7 country for 3.5 years, should have all the time necessary to express his views and answer relevant and measured questions by MPs, both on the government side and on the opposition side. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then on the question, on the amendment by Mr. Dussault to delete sections 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11, all recorded vote. Okay, Mr. Clerk, all those in favor on a recorded vote of deletion?
Mr. Fergus.
No.
Mr. Fergus-Gaddis.
No.
Mr. McLeod.
No.
Ms. Rudd.
No.
Mr. Sabara.
No.
Mr. Deltel. Mr. Poiliev.
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Monsieur Dussault.
Motion is defeated. Then on the original motion,
Yes.
back to my original list.
I wanted my name added to that list.
To the original list, okay. Don't believe you spoke on the original list, did you, Mr. Deltel?
Unfortunately,
You did?
I didn't.
You didn't. Okay, then we're starting with you. You're first up. It'll be Mr. Deltel, Mr. Sabara, Mr. I believe he was in the second list, Mr. Sabara, and then Mr. Polyev, just so we're sure on our... Oh, you were on the other list? Okay, so it'll be Mr. Deltel, Sabara, Richards, Polyev. Mr. Deltel, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you,
on the
sir.
motion as
In
original.
general. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. So it's a real honor and privilege for me to attend this prestigious committee led by someone who is very prestigious, who served this country so well with dignity since 1988, I think. First time. 93.
I'm not that old, Gerald.
I thought you were there. So it's a great honor for me to see you, Wayne, to see you back. So, ce que l'on a devant nous aujourd'hui, c'est
What we have here today is a way of broaching an analysis of the recent budget that doesn't go into sufficient depth. I draw your attention to clause 7 of the motion. I will read it again. The committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear on Bill C-97 on Wednesday, May 1st, 2019, from 3:30 to 5 p.m., and that officials appear from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. if necessary. Now, Mr. Chairman, to our mind, this clause is important, but it does not respect the exceptional duties of the Minister of Finance. This is why we want to extend the hours. I will be tabling an amendment to that effect later. When you look at the incredible duties of the Minister of Finance, he is the person who manages the finances of a G7 country. He heads a department that manages $330 billion budgets for 37 million Canadians. This is a person who has to look at all the details of the measures proposed and the avenues proposed to Canadians. Wanting to restrict this golden opportunity to look at this in depth and have relevant questions and relevant answers, of course, that doesn't respect parliamentarianism, because everyone must have an opportunity to speak. It's a lack of respect toward the finance minister, especially. That's something. When you table documents this thick and measures that have a direct impact on the lives of millions of Canadians, the least you can do is get time to express this and answer pertinent questions. When you're circumscribed by 90 minutes, and there's always 15, 20 minutes for the presentation by the minister, unfortunately, there's not much time left. to get into the details of the commitments made and the impact this may have on the lives of Canadians, of our entrepreneurs, of our businesses, the lives of our partners at the municipal or provincial level. This is a missed opportunity to go into depth on this. And that's one of the reasons why we're here in the Commons. We have the extraordinary privilege of sitting on behalf of our constituents, the 100,000 or so people who live in our ridings, who, whether they voted for not or not, for us or not, we represent all Canadians in our ridings. The presence of the finance minister at the House of Commons Finance Committee is a key moment for transparency, for accountability, for parliamentary work, and a key moment for the person who has the deserved extraordinary privilege of heading the Department of Finance. And when I say well-deserved, I just want to remind everyone that if we have the privilege of sitting in this House, we also have obligations that are related to that. That of respecting and honoring the mandate given to us and to our colleagues. You can't be happy only when you win and not happy when you're defeated, and be less democratic because of it. Democracy being what it is, we respect the will of the people. Everyone here in the House of Commons deserves to be there. The government party is in power. The responsibility of the head of the Canadian government is to choose who he feels are the best people for cabinet positions. The executive, and everyone knows, without wanting to create a hierarchy, we do know that finance is the pretty much top department of any government. Whoever has the privilege and opportunity and the honor of sitting around the cabinet table, whether a junior or a so-called senior minister, it is an incredible privilege that has to be appreciated. Around the table, everyone is equal, and that's what we hope for anyway. So restricting the finance minister to barely 90 minutes of testimony is unfortunately refusing to give him privileged access to speak directly to Canadians and tell us what he feels about the budget, the objectives he's aiming for in these policies, and look at the track record of his achievements. This is the fourth budget tabled by the Minister of Finance, who manages the public finances of Canada for 3.5 years. The time for track record has come. In 6 months, there'll be an election, and the public can pass judgment on the track record of the government and public finances. After 4 budgets, 3.5 years of management, the time has come for accountability. So this presentation in a parliamentary committee is a unique opportunity for the minister to shed light on what he thinks are his best actions and respond to the attacks that may come through pointed questions, incisive questions from opposition members. There's nothing personal about this. We're here because we're in official opposition. That's part of our mandate. We're Her Majesty's loyal opposition. And the representative of Her Majesty is the finance minister. So let's give him an opportunity to answer to these attacks and these questions that any opposition group may ask. It's a golden opportunity. I fail to understand why the finance minister wouldn't have this exceptional opportunity to respond to comments that may displease him, but have an opportunity to answer. That's parliamentary work. That's the privilege of a minister. It is his duty to do so as well. Let me remind you too, Mr. Chairman, we just saw this a couple of minutes ago with a vote. The government side has a majority around this table. That means they have the majority of questions as well. And when it comes to asking questions, when there's a witness, So here it'll be an ally. We don't expect the questions from the government side to be brutal and harsh, but it will be an opportunity for the finance minister to justify various policies, as we say, to receive some soft shots, but it's up to him to decide how he can negotiate with the puck that's lobbed at him. So it's important to us to see the parliamentary, or rather the finance minister, come before the parliamentary committee and answer the questions of MPs and have an opportunity to explain his track record, explain his achievements, answer questions about what we feel are measures that did not contribute to our economic prosperity. And that's why I will table the following amendment, that clause 7 of, it's in the second sentence here of clause 7. The committee invite the Minister of Finance to appear on Bill C-97 on Wednesday, May 1st, 2019 from 3:30 p.m., and this is where the amendment starts, to 6:30 p.m., period.
This is in order, and on the amendment, and the amendment would basically that the Minister of Finance appear from 3:30 to 6:30, changing clause 7 to that effect. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Not on the bill, on the amendment.
Mr. Chair, can I get clarification on the amendment on point 7? Mr. Deltel, you'd like to have the minister appear from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., but then you want to delete the time that the officials would appear also from 5 to 6:30, correct?
My point is to be sure that the Minister of Finance will have the chance, the opportunity, the privilege, and the honor to answer questions for 3 full hours, not an hour and a half.
So there would have to be another time for officials to appear. But anyway, the amendment is strictly the minister appear at 3:30 to 6:30, with some officials with them, no doubt. All right, the amendment's on the floor. Mr. Richards.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, we don't control the agenda.
You know, I guess this is kind of similar to what I had tried to move earlier as a sub amendment. So obviously, I'm in favor of it, but I want to just take a little bit of time to explain why. And I think first I'd like to just get to this question that was kind of raised about the officials. Would be my understanding that the minister is able to bring along with him whoever he'd like. I mean, that's within his right to do that. I mean, the expectation, I think, would be that he would answer questions, and maybe if he needed some reference, he could turn to them to get some reference or something. If people on the committee feel, members of the committee feel it's necessary to have them, I'm certainly not opposed to having them come at another time. My understanding, though, is that also in the motion point 2, we would have department officials here for 3 hours on the 29th of April, if that was to be what the committee chooses. So I don't think I would be opposed to having them here again, but bottom line is that at the end of the day, the person responsible, the person who is accountable for this act on behalf of the government is the Minister of Finance. It's not the officials, it's not the parliamentary secretary like they tried one other time. It is the Minister of Finance. He's the one. He's the one that's responsible. The buck stops there, so to speak, or in this case, the bucks all kind of get thrown out from there. But bottom line is, he's the one. He's the one. So he's the one that should be here, and I don't really think in any way that expectation that he would come for the entire period of time rather than just half of the period of time is something that is unreasonable in any kind of a way. It certainly seems to me as though that's the appropriate thing. I mean, I've already mentioned earlier and I don't have to get into it in great detail again, but we've seen things slid into these omnibus bills by this government that are intended to be there to be of sole benefit to some of their liberal friends, their elite liberal friends. That we've seen things here that certainly in no way should relate to a budget. We've seen, I mentioned the one example earlier from this current budget of something that would affect the size and area of ski hills in one particular location in the country in my riding. These kinds of things are pretty oddly placed things in budgets, and so there's a lot of questions to be asked about things like that. But of course, there's also a lot of questions to be asked about broad budgetary policy, because we've got a government here that had promised it was going to balance the budget by 2019. Remember, and here we are. Deficits continue to grow, and debt continues to pile on. And there's a lot of legitimate questions about what kind of legacy does that leave for our children and our grandchildren. Those are the kinds of questions that need to be asked too. And so to expect that in just half that time, in that one and a half hours, we can get to some of these oddly placed things in an omnibus bill, and also get a chance to actually ask about the broad budgetary policy of the government with the limited time that would give. And we have seen in the past, I mean, Mr. Poilievre mentioned it earlier, but we've seen it in the past where this finance minister comes and kind of tries to talk the clock out and doesn't give a lot of opportunity for the actual questions, and certainly there isn't much in the way of answers. So to get a little more time to be able to get those questions and hopefully maybe even get some answers, who the heck knows, maybe it'll actually happen this time. I'm
going to interrupt you there due to a matter of time, Mr. Richards. There is another committee that is to be in here at 1 o'clock. I was looking at the possibility of continuing this meeting if there was consent to do so, but there's they need a third language, which is to be translated in this room for that committee, so we can't do that. At the clerk will put out a notice. At the call of the chair, we will continue with the business meeting at 3:30 this afternoon in the Welling Building. The clerk will send out a notice to tell you what that room will be, and we will continue dealing with the original motion on the proposed amendment by Mr. Deltel when we start at 3:30. For those witnesses that are here from CRA, my apologies. We will not ask you back to the next to the meeting at 3:30, but I do understand that you had a written submission. I will ask you to leave that with the clerk of the committee, and we'll deal with that at the appropriate time. So with that, we'll adjourn this meeting, and there will be a meeting at the call of the chair at 3:30 this afternoon in the Welling Building. The clerk will give notice for such meeting. Meeting adjourned.